All right, we are here with the Fight Game podcast. Paul Fontaine subbing in for John LaRocca, who John LaRocca is either out of town, which was the original plan, or he's home with sick individuals in his
Mhm.
family. So there was they were supposed to be out of town, which is why I asked Paul to jump on here. But then I heard, and I'm not sure if they couldn't go out of town because the kids and the wife were a bit sick. So whatever the reason, John couldn't be here. Paul is here, and we're doing this much earlier than usual, taking advantage of everyone sort of slow back to the office. At least for me, I'm just doing this on my lunch break. But for those who wanted to hear John and I have started a side version of this show, a sister show that we're doing exclusively on Fight Game Media. So he and I recorded Sunday night, and our takes on World's End and the SmackDown angle with Cody and KO. All of that is on Fight Game Media. So when we do that extra show, we're here every Thursday, early Friday on F4W, but we do every once in a while, maybe once or twice a month, we'll do something on Fight Game Media. So if you need your John LaRocca, that's where you can find it. All right, Paul. So this is the first show of 2025. You recorded one last night talking about Dynamite. So I always think about, like, we always have this idea of, like, oh, it's a new year, the calendar turns. Is there a new version of Paul Fontaine, or are we getting the same version of Paul Fontaine that we've always known and loved?
Well, we had a new version of both me and Jeff on the show because we're now Font and Hawk, uh, taking a cue from Adam Copeland. No, I like we may change up the format a little bit. I've been kind of subtly changing things without people noticing because I don't know. I personally not a huge fan of change, but I know it has to happen at some point. So I
Mhm.
assume that my listeners are the same way. But yeah, we have a lot of fun. We're getting a lot of engagement, and yeah. So there'll be some slight changes. Like if you watch 6 months from now, it'll look different and sound different. But week to week, you probably won't notice the changes.
So Paul is also talking about the Dynamite show, also on Fight Game Media, on our YouTube channel, but you can just go to fightgamemedia.com. But that is not why Paul is here. He is here because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff in wrestling. We're going to do our New Year's wishes, which is we're going to do something for each company that we follow closely. And later on this show, Jeremy Finestone is going to jump on. And this is Jeremy coming on to do our show about an hour and change before he does his show, speaking of Strong Style. So we're just all in the podcasts at this point today. So before we get to any of that stuff, John and I like to kick off with our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week. And we'll do that here on the show.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
All right, Paul. I didn't ask you what your thumbs up and thumbs down was going to be, but I imagine what I'm going to say you would vehemently agree with, because my thumbs up is to CM Punk and Seth Rollins, because they cut like the best promo that I don't know, the best back and forth promo that I've seen in quite a long time. And I heard some folks who, anytime CM Punk does anything that is a little edgy or that has some sort of, maybe a little leans a little into reality, people always go, oh, it's the pipe bomb, right? I thought Punk was great, but I thought Seth Rollins like really, really shined. This is maybe the best I've seen Seth Rollins. And some people will say, oh, there was a Raw in 2017 or that I'm not going to remember him from. But man, that was great stuff from both guys setting up the Netflix match. I almost was like, man, imagine if they could have done this promo on the Netflix show. Imagine if all these new viewers, we'll sort of know how many new viewers, but let's say that there's going to be some casual new eyeballs who go, oh, what's this WWE thing? and you kick that show off, and it's this, this promo. I was like, oh, I wonder if they should have saved it, but they're doing it for this show. They're peaking it for this show. But man, I thought that was like pro wrestling excellence in that segment to end Raw on Monday.
Yeah, I agree. I loved it. I actually think though that if you're talking casual fans that might tune into Netflix, they might not even have understood a lot of what Seth and Punk were talking about. So maybe it did make more sense to have it happen here, and then next week they can do the match, and then you've also got, you're going to have your Roman, you're probably going to have Rock. I think you're going to have Cena. So there's plenty of stuff for the casuals next week. This was more kind of to mobilize that fan base that's, whether you're into either guy. And what I really liked about it was there's nuggets of truth in there that people that don't like Punk, and there's a lot of them, are going to really rally behind what Seth said. And Punk has a lot of people that live and die by him, and they're gonna be right behind what Punk said. And they look at Seth as, the guy that is just represents corporate WWE, and that's what they don't like. So it splits your audience, but it also splits them in a passionate way, so that they're not like, oh, we're not going to watch the show. No, we're watching because we want to see our guy. And it's not WWE versus AEW. I mean, it kind of is in a way, like the way they framed it, but in this sense, it's two guys in WWE against each other. So they're not, they're acknowledging that AEW exists, but they're framing it in a way so that you're all in on WWE.
What stops them from saying the letters AEW?
Probably just, Triple H is different from Vince, but he was still trained by Vince, and that's probably part of it. But
I would have said the letters. I think it would have made that pop even better.
I do think that's coming at some point. Punk will probably be the one to say it, and then it'll be like, oh, I said it, like as if he wasn't supposed to say it. And even Vince, like they referenced Vince but didn't say his name. That one I can see maybe not saying it. And it's funny because I saw people that thought he was talking about Triple H. There were people that thought he was talking about Khan.
Come on,
Tony Khan. Like, oh, he loved you. Like, meaning like Tony wants to sign.
I think Tony Khan still loves CM Punk, but he was he was saying Tony Khan loves Seth. I get. Yeah. You're right. But I think it was clear, like, because if you're healing, if in Punk's mind he left, I honestly I don't think he's actually being 100% honest, because I think there's multiple reasons why he left. It wasn't only Vince, but Vince is in charge, and Vince is the I can't believe he did that kind of thing. He also left because of Triple H. Like, we all remember the story of Triple H. Yeah, well, Triple H saying, we're going to work together, right? Like, that was how he tried to get Punk to calm down. He's like, and Punk's like, why do I care about working WrestleMania with you?
Yeah.
Like, there's multiple reasons why he left. But yeah, it was a lot of not shooting, but trying to play the smart fans in a way to think maybe, like, whenever people wonder, if there's a certain segment of the audience that wonders if something is a shoot, I'm like, no, it's obviously not a shoot if you think it's a shoot. Like,
well, the funny thing,
those people.
The funny thing is, though, is like I'm reminded of when Hangman and Punk did that stuff in AEW, and at the time, I thought, well, there's no way it's a shoot, because there's no way it would be on TV if it was, and it was. So
that was the one. That was the one where we were like, it can't be. There's no way that's a shoot.
And then they did it again with the Bucks.
Yeah.
So like in that sense, I think that may be why more people believe it might be now, because of the fact that and then I also saw some people that, Punk, it's just like neutered Punk, and it's like those people are just haters, because this was Punk. Like, this was the Punk that everyone knows and loves. Or not everyone, but the people that do love him.
It was absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
it was like, great. Whenever we say what is pro wrestling, like, to me, that promo was pro wrestling. Like, if I was to show somebody, like, okay, here's what a match is. Like, everyone knows what a match is, but what is the essence of pro wrestling? It was that promo.
It was that. It was KO and Cody on SmackDown a few weeks ago. You know, like that's the reason I watch. And I know, and Jeff, my co-host on the Dynamite Show, same thing. Like, you know, more than the matches. You know, even though I'm a sicko when it comes to matches.
We just published your top 30.
Yeah, and I don't, you know, I think people will look at that list and there may be some women's matches that I didn't see that aren't on there, but I think it was a pretty good list.
I mean, how many matches did you say that you rated?
3,800.
My gosh.
Yeah, that's over 10 a day. That I am a sicko. I'll give you the exact number. Oh wait a minute, no, that's 20. I didn't even hit 3,000 in 2022, so I'm picking up my game here. 3,844, and the last show I watched was a Juggalo Championship Wrestling show.
I imagine there was no matches from that show that even came close to your list.
No, the best match on that show would have been like the worst match on Dynamite.
All right. So what was thumbs up for you this week?
Thumbs up for me, Will Ospreay. He had, because we're still the last 7 days, we're into World's End.
Oh yeah.
And he had the probably one of the best single day performances by a pro wrestler, like maybe ever. One, certainly in North America, you know, having 2 match of the year quality matches on World's End, and then also, you know, in general, like, you know, because I, like you mentioned, I just did that list, and he had the top 4 matches on my list in 2024 and 12 of the top 30. I mean, that's insane. And
I guess we can say this here. Wrestling Observer Radio, which isn't on the free version of this YouTube channel. It is behind the paywall. Audio listeners know Wrestling Observer Radio. You're joining Dave and myself on Friday, and John Pollock from Post Wrestling, and we're going to talk about awards. So
nice. Yeah.
You'll have your list handy for Dave.
And not just the matches. We just talked about promos. And that promo that Will Ospreay cut, with one notable exception that you are the keen one to point out. I mean, that was the ultimate babyface promo.
Yeah,
that he cut
awesome.
on the pay-per-view, except that he lost. Yeah. But the promo itself was great. You know, and
we'll talk about this because we're going to do our New Year's wishes for all of the companies. Man, if they can figure out how to maneuver Will from just being, you know, the best wrestler in the ring to an actual superstar character who you portray as kind of the savior of AEW in a sense, and really move him into that elite babyface, that would be something that I would just be so much for if he is the chosen person to do that. And you know, he's already got the wrestling stuff down. You might hurt some fans' feelings by paring that down a little bit by, okay, dude, you know, you're not going to be wrestling this insane match. We actually need to utilize you in this different way. And I would be for it if it meant that, you know, he's able to utilize his skill set in that way to be a really strong babyface.
Yeah, no, I agree.
No, he had a fantastic year. It was the year of Will Ospreay. The awards that we'll talk about tomorrow with Dave, you know, it's going to be Cody and Will, I'm assuming, but I think there's going to be some crossover from the Will side into the Cody side when it comes to what Wrestler of the Year means.
Cody had a really good year in terms of in-ring as well. Like, and we'll talk about this tomorrow too, but he had 3 of the top 30. So, you know, like for WWE, that's pretty good.
All right. Thumbs down for me. This one saddens me because I'm such a big fan of hers. I thought Jamie Hayter was really not great last night on Dynamite, and some of that was not her fault. It's Julia Hart coming back from being out for a long time. I didn't think they had a very good match. I thought their chemistry was off. I also think Jamie, I don't know if she was like, yeah, that's a great idea for a finish in the match is for me to take mist in my face. And the mist actually pins me and not a move off of the mist. That was poor. She is way too talented and way too big of a, like, we need to be building her up for Mercedes. I don't even know why we're messing around with the Julia Hart thing. Maybe they want to push that off a little while, but Jamie Hayter's the goods. Her character right now, though, is very, very average. And I don't know why. I don't know why that they're doing this to her, because when she was on fire and then she had to go away, I think we assume that, when she comes back, she's going to be like the top woman or one of the top women. And she's come back completely in the mid card. And I just don't understand why.
Yeah, I agree. Like when she first came back, or right before she came back, I should say, rumors were coming out that she's probably going to return at Wembley and stuff, and we didn't know how or what she was going to do. I thought, yeah, she's the one that's going to beat Mercedes eventually, not right away, because Mercedes had just recently won the title, but you want to build her up, and so I figured, okay, she's going to do that. Then she starts in with Saraya, and I'm like, that's not who I would have started her with, but whatever. They're going to close that chapter. She wasted like a month or two with her, and then she moved on to Penelope Ford. Like,
yeah,
she's just wrestling all these like lower than mid card people, really. And now I'm to the point where 6 months after she returned, I'm like, there's no way she's going to beat Mercedes. Like, she's got so much work. She's further away from Mercedes now than she was when she came back.
Yeah.
And that's too bad, because I think they've got something there. My guess is that she's going to end up turning heel. And then, maybe the idea is that Mercedes is going to be a baby face by the time they get to that match. So maybe that'll work better. I don't know. Although Mercedes is so much better as a heel. I don't know. I don't think you plan to turn her baby face, but
she would have to change her character. You can't be the CEO and be a baby face. I don't.
No. And I don't. And it never works with her. Like, it really doesn't. Like, she's always colder as a baby face. She's great as a heel, like as that CEO or the boss, like that character. She feels it. She is that character. So that works for her. And when she tries to babyface it, it doesn't work, because it's neutered. It's kind of like Swerve in a way, like with that character. It doesn't really work as a babyface, not the way he's doing it. So yeah. I also say that, I put more of that match on Julia last night, but again, it wasn't good for either one of them. And certainly by the end, they buried her finisher too. Like, you didn't mention that, but she hit her haterade, and they didn't even call it haterade. Like, they just called it a lariat. And it's like, I almost got the impression, like, is she leaving? Like, like, I don't think so, but that's the way that she lost. Her and Orange last night. It's like,
All right. What about your thumbs down?
Thumbs down for me. You might want to cover your ears. Well, they are covered by your thing. The Pointer Sisters. Come on.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that in a second.
Yeah, that's it. Like, is there not a single other song you could have picked from the last 42 years besides that? He just paid for Welcome to the Jungle. That would have been a perfect thing for like the new era of Dynamite. But
I wonder what the decision making was behind that, because I don't sense that.
Could it just be that he's really excited that he's on Max?
Oh, okay. Maybe, but I was trying to think about who are the decision makers or supportive decision makers for him in that in a boardroom or whatever, when you're coming, like Will Washington. He's like mid-30s. Yeah, Jarrett's the only one that I could think of that was like old enough.
Daniels, Dustin.
No, not Dustin. If it was Dustin, it would have been some like country western song.
Merle Haggard.
Yeah, it would have been Merle. It would have been Mighty Merle for sure.
Maybe Chris Daniels, although he seems more like a was not was guy or something.
So the funny thing is that I wouldn't say that I love the Pointer Sisters necessarily, but there are some very memorable songs that they've done just because in that mid 80s time frame, the way that music explodes in that way. But I was thinking about this in 1985, 86, when I would have first started watching Saturday Night's Main Event. A lot of the reason why I thought wrestling was cool is because they were using the music that I was listening to on the radio at that time. I was making a joke in our Discord that Billy Ocean's When the Going Gets Tough. Like I very much so remember a video package with Hogan, and they're doing, I think it's like maybe a year end of 85 or 86 when they play this song in a video package. Had they played a song from the 1940s, I don't think I would have saw wrestling as cool. I would have saw the opposite. I would have, oh, this is like super outdated. Why am I watching this? But to use the Pointer Sisters in 2025 as your intro music, I think it does outdate the product. It makes your product feel a little old and antiquated. And it didn't vibe with what they were showing in that video to me. So as much as I do love the Pointer Sisters, I completely agree that was a weird song choice.
They've used they used this song for a video package it was like about a year ago to highlight the women, and I would have maybe paid for Paint the Town Red by Doja Cat. Like that would have that's a good one. And you could and you use blood as the red because that's what sets them apart. And they really focused on the blood last night as well, and I think that was deliberate. Because they're on Max and they want to they assume that a lot of new people are watching. So like something more current anyway.
Well, and this is something that I know Big Dave talks about a lot, which is their 18 to 34 audience.
Yeah.
And not saying that an intro video is going to make those 18 to 34 that fan base come back. But if they were to, let's say, pair up with a younger, more hip artist of today, and you actually did utilize that song in your video package, and then for the next pay-per-view, they actually were there to do something. Like I think that would be a great idea, but sadly, and I know this just because I kind of am into history like this, but the Pointer Sisters, Ruth Pointer, who is the oldest one of the sisters, is the only one who is still alive. The other two, June and I forget the third woman's name.
Is it Bonnie?
I don't remember. But anyways, they have passed away, and actually Ruth's daughter and granddaughter are actually now the three of them are considered the group. So you're talking about, a group that, like, let's say this song was a hit with the fans. Like, it's not like you could then go, oh, we're going to bring the Pointer Sisters, who's like, they're gone. Like, they've passed away. So another just weird choice. All right, why don't we just kick off the top 5 here, because we're going to come right back to AEW on Max.
Drums, please.
Okay, so AEW on Max, I watched. So I'm actually very thankful for AEW being on Max this week, because if it wasn't, I would have not been able to watch Dynamite.
Oh.
For some reason, Hulu recorded the West Coast version of TBS at 5:00, which meant all I got to watch was the Avengers.
I wonder how that's going to affect the ratings.
Well, I'm hopeful that, there's maybe I'm a part of a minority of people who watch through Hulu Live, but on the same DVR thing that I set 5 years ago when I first started watching.
Yeah.
So it's not like I changed anything. So it's definitely a mistake. And it was the Avengers. So when I caught, like, I figured it out. And so then I went to the live version of the East Coast, and then I rewound it back, and I kind of watched up until a certain point, but then I couldn't watch again. And so I had to watch the rest of it on Max. And last night when I went back to watch it on Max, all I got was the Spanish broadcasting team. So I actually watched the Ricochet and Swerve angle through the Spanish broadcast, which was fine because I didn't.
Ay, caramba!
Well, I didn't need the English language for that, like, because that was all visual. But then when they went to the Jarrett stuff, I didn't want to have to listen to them speak over Jarrett to translate. So then this morning I woke up, and then it was there. The English language broadcast was there, so that was great. Pros for AEW on Max: the picture looks better than Hulu Live for me.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think
I heard that as well. Apparently, it's something to do with the frame rate. It's only was 30 frames per second on the streaming before, and now it's 60, which is the same as television. So
yeah, and if you go through Apple TV, which is what I use,
even
it,
better.
it looks great, and it's in Dolby, so the sound is great too. So that was completely positive. On the opposite end, I don't like the Max app that much, especially how they do the 10-second skip. There's like a delay in it, so I
Ooh.
couldn't get through the commercials as quick as I wanted to. And on that end, I'm paying like $20 a month for Max. Maybe clip out the commercials for your people who are on those packages for payment. Maybe the $5 Max people or the $10 Max people, maybe keep the commercials in, but
And they already air like the commercial-free feed on Triller. Like you'd think they
yeah,
could air it here
so
too.
that was a little frustrating that the next day I still had to kind of zip through commercials, but I kind of expected it. Um, I guess on the negative side, when you clicked on Max, it was not on the main screen, which is the opposite from how Netflix is
Hmm.
doing Raw. So I actually had to click into the BR Sports tile, and then once I got there, then I saw AEW. But when I clicked on HBO, I got whatever I think there's a Friends trivia challenge with Whitney Cummings, which is like the top thing, and it might be there because I've watched Friends content before on Max, so it could also be that I have to sort of teach Max that I want to see more of the
Mm.
wrestling content on there. But based off of what I currently watch, it was not on there. And then I guess trying to find it the next day was a little harder because it wants you to go into the shows, and then
Oh,
it has 2 seasons. It has 2019 and 2024. So I went to the 2024 thinking that the 2025 show was gonna be there, was not there in the season,
oh,
so they're gonna have to create a 3rd season for the 2025 stuff. But if I kind of scroll down that BR Sports page, then I found the replay. So, yeah,
that
just
I
just
mean,
kinks.
you've already like you've lost people already. Like at
Well,
what you just described, because you're desperate and you need to see it, you want to see it,
yeah.
but the casual viewer is gone by that point. Like,
Well,
yeah,
there's a little bit of the benefit of the doubt I'm going to give them to try and figure this out on
yeah,
day
yeah.
1, and I imagine they'll fix the kinks for the next show. But yeah, it's an interesting experiment for them, and I commend them for putting it up. Now, the other question that I have is with the archival stuff, at some point, Max is gonna realize that nobody is watching this archival stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, in the first month, I think people will people are gonna go back and watch Double or Nothing. I will eventually. That's the show that I've never seen on pay-per-view because I was
Yeah.
there. So I wanna see that show. There might be other pay-per-views that I decide to go back and check out because I was there live and I didn't watch them on pay-per-view. But at some point, the archival content that they are, hosting, it's gonna get very little engagement, and I do wonder. I'm guessing based off of the contract that they signed that Max just has to keep it up, but that's not something that I imagine Netflix would necessarily do, and like I don't imagine we're gonna
Well,
see 1985 superstars of wrestling on Netflix, right?
yeah. Well, I can speak to that, and because as you may or may not know, in Canada now, Netflix is that's where all the WWE stuff is. So day one, they transferred over the archive. We've got all the Raws, all the SmackDowns, all the NXTs, all the pay-per-views.
That's a good
So
start.
yeah, like so I mean, yeah, we don't have superstars, primetime wrestling, all that. But I mean, how many people are watching that stuff? To me, that would be like putting up early dark and dark
Right,
elevations,
right. That's
Yeah,
why,
yeah,
when we wrestling fans want to find something, um, these deals that these companies are making are probably not going to benefit those of us who may need to find something like that or who are
correct.
doing content, but there are very few of us, I imagine, who are looking for that content. So,
but
yeah,
if you want to watch like the December 23rd 2011 episode of Monday Night Raw, like I don't know if that was a Monday, but you know what I mean, it's there. Like they've got it all separated into seasons by years, and yeah, you can, like, everything I looked for I found, and there were specific ones I was looking for because I wanted to see about edits and stuff, and
you got
it was all there.
You got to find the DX pretending to be the Nation, because on Peacock they eliminate. I imagine that's
I looked at this tells you something about me. I looked at Fully Loaded 1998 because I wanted to see the bikini contest, and they blurred out Jackie. So but then the other thing is after I did that, the next time I turned on my smart TV, the first thing that it was suggested for me, Raw on Monday, right on the home screen. It's telling me that Raw is coming on Monday. So, as opposed to what you described with Max, like, it's literally going to be one click of a button and I'm on Raw. So
going back to Max, the other positive thing is I never get the overrun on Dynamite or Collision. You know what I also didn't get? In Rampage, how the last Rampage, Moxley basically killed supposedly the truck or whatever.
Oh my God.
Like, I didn't even get that. Like, even Moxley's killing Rampage, and they still went into like a minute overrun or something that got cut off.
So you missed that. Wow. I saw people that shut the show off because they didn't realize there was more coming after the Hook main event. But yeah, that was something else. But yeah, well, that's good that you won't miss the overrun anymore. And like I said, everybody that I saw that watched on Max, like, there were some minor complaints, but people seemed pretty happy.
I wonder. Here's the thing that I'm going to try and remember to test next week, or maybe I probably won't be, because there's so much wrestling this weekend. If you're a New Japan fan, that I don't know that I'll get to Collision in a timely fashion, but I want to test. The show starts on Max. Can I actually go back and watch from the beginning, or do I only get to watch the live feed?
Somebody in our Discord, in the Viking Media Discord, said that they started watching a half hour in, they went back to the beginning, and they were able to fast forward through commercials, and they caught up midway through the show.
That's because that's a positive. Now, even more of a positive will be if I go in a half an hour early. When I click on it, does it take me to the live, and then I got to rewind, or does it say, like what happens on Peacock, do you want to watch? Or I don't know if it does this on Peacock, but there are some services where it says, do you want to watch live, or do you want to watch from the beginning? And if you then say, I want to watch from the beginning, then that would be even better, I think.
Yeah, that to me, that's like almost like a deal breaker on a lot of these apps. Like, there's certain ones where you can, and then like Prime is good for that. But then there's ones where you either watch it live or you can't watch till it's over. And their Honor Club is like that, which drives me nuts. You have to watch it live, or you have to wait until it's over to start watching it.
That was the old Bleacher Report. Like, if you ordered an AEW pay-per-view on the old Bleacher Report, you can only watch it live. So even if you started late, you couldn't go back. And then once the show was over, you had to wait for a specific amount of time, and it was varied when the replay would be up, and sometimes the only replay would be available. And now we're coming back full circle. It was the Spanish broadcast replay.
Yeah, I remember John used to watch that occasionally.
Okay, let's talk about WWE on Netflix, and then we'll come back to AEW. WWE on Netflix. We have a lot of matches. Tribal Combat, Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa. I'm not into this OTC character all that much as I was into the OG Bloodline. Like, to me, I think Roman gets way more interesting once they move beyond what happens to the Bloodline stuff. I guess tangentially, like, or just as a side thing, maybe there's always going to be some, version of this feud happening. But to me, the more interesting thing for Roman is where he goes after the Solo Sikoa Bloodline stuff. maybe I'm sure he's still got a Jacob Fatu match coming up. But once we get that kind of behind us, I'm way more interested in the Roman character. But I imagine Roman gets his Ulafala back, because if he doesn't, then we're extending this thing all the way to WrestleMania.
So what I think is going to happen, and I have not seen this mentioned anywhere, and I have not mentioned it anywhere until this very show. I think Jacob Fatu is going to do a hostile takeover, and he's going to take out Solo. He's going to take that. I can never remember what it's called. Ulafala. And he's going to bring in Tala Tonga and the other guy that they've got under contract. I can't remember which Fatu it is. It's not Zilla. It's another one. And basically replace him. And then eventually Solo will be back with the OG bloodline down the road. But, give him some time off, because, I think nobody necessarily takes him all that seriously right now.
Look, man, if you're setting up Roman and Jacob, I think that'd be an awesome way to do it.
Yeah, and then that's your Mania match for Roman. And with Jacob as the head of the table, the tribal chief, whatever you're calling him. And I think that has a lot more steam to it than Solo, for sure. The other possibility would be The Rock coming in and maybe just taking over. Maybe I know Brian Alvarez has called for this. Like, he just takes the thing and says, "Nah, neither one of you get it. It's me. I'm the boss."
Okay, so then what about this giant rumor of Roman and Punk for WrestleMania?
Yeah, I don't know how you get there. I know that I've heard people, including yourself, say that, it has to be for a title. So I guess if that was the case, it would be Punk would probably win the title from Gunther and then defend it against Roman. But I think it could just be like, I don't know how you get to Roman Punk unless that's not happening, and it is Roman.
See, I would save Roman and Punk for the title at next year's WrestleMania.
Year's Mania, yeah. But then you've also got The Rock, yeah.
But you also don't know. Well, I mean, The Rock could do Cody stuff, right? But and the reason why I say that is because I think Roman and Punk could be what Punk is doing with McIntyre and Seth in this entire year of 2024. You could do that with Roman and Punk for 2025, and you can have like this really long story. You're telling this slow story to build for WrestleMania, the following year. But they may think that they need to cash in on this thing now because it's hot.
They could do Punk Cody at Mania.
If this year or next year?
This year.
Yeah, there's a lot of steam behind Cena now, because I think
Cena. Yeah, Cena's the other one. Yeah,
I think people don't think The Rock is going to have a match, which I can totally see. So I mean, the best thing about WWE though is they just have so many options. Like you have, there's
we're not even into Drew, Seth.
Yeah, there's
Kevin Owens,
5 or 6 matches you could do that would actually be okay as one of the nights for a main event. Which is really
probably on each night you probably got like your top 3 matches are like matches that are stronger than some Mania main events that they've had.
Yeah.
Like, they're so deep. It's crazy.
CM Punk and Seth Rollins, which we talked about in our thumbs up and thumbs down. I would imagine that is the main event of that show. You have Liv Morgan against Rhea Ripley, last woman standing. I can't wait for this feud to be over. And not because the work is bad. It's just, it seems like they've been just extending it to get here, to get to this place so that we could finally move on.
Probably and then Becky returns here.
Yeah. And then see what happens with Becky, what happens with Charlotte. Let's get Bianca cooking again. And, to have options there. And then they've got all these great women in NXT as well that they could, that they could eventually bring up. And then you have Drew McIntyre versus Jey Uso. Jey Uso's like the most engaging babyface on the roster right now when it comes to fan reaction and stuff. I would like to see the guy win a little bit more in these big matches, but he's always in these matches again where I'm like, I would love to see him win. And when he finally does win one of these, it's going to be a giant pop, but I don't see him winning this match.
Yeah. The closest we got was beating Braun, and then they took that away right away.
Yeah. Yeah. So then John Cena returns. That'll be really cool. We'll see what is set up for him. I imagine him maybe saying he's going to be in the Royal Rumble. He may have already said that, by the way. So maybe he makes it official.
I think he did. Yeah. I think he did.
And I guess we get Penta as well.
Penta Zero Miedo. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And
And then
he's gonna have. I think he's got the charisma that a lot of the masked wrestlers in wrestling today don't have. But at the same time, I think he also knows what his value is, which may make him a little harder to book than some of the other masked wrestlers that are out there. So that's kind of going to kind of be the thing that I'm interested in seeing is how he separates a little bit.
just occurred to me, he's going to be Ray's partner against the New Day.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I didn't even.
That's what
Yeah,
they were leading towards.
yeah, it didn't even occur to me until just a second because they wanted you to think it was another member of the LWO, but yeah, it's going to be Penta. Yeah.
And then you mentioned what you got to see on Netflix. So what is the story with how you are going to be watching WWE TV in 2025?
Well, it's weird because it's going to cost, because normally the way I watch, and I'm an old guy, and I just do the things the way I do them, and I like to watch stuff that's on my PVR first, and then when I run out of stuff on the PVR, I watch streaming. But with all the WWE stuff on streaming, I may have to bend a little bit, and the real test is going to be tomorrow because SmackDown is
on YouTube, right?
Apparently, if I didn't listen to Wrestling Observer Radio, I wouldn't know this because they have not mentioned a word of it on TV.
So for those who don't know, Paul lives in Canada. So Netflix is like the dominant for everything WWE in Canada.
And they have not mentioned that once. They do cutaways, like local cutaways, and that's when they should have told us, and they haven't. So if you watch WWE in Canada and you're just a normal person that watches TV and you don't listen to, podcasts about wrestling and you're not online 24/7, you have no idea that they're moving to Netflix. Like other than, like Netflix is doing a good job of promoting it. But, if you don't log on to Netflix or whatever, like you wouldn't know. So now it's like TNA are here. So people that are going to tune in to Sportsnet 360 tomorrow night at 8:00 Eastern, when SmackDown is usually on, they're putting a replay of Impact up. Like that's what's up there now on the listing. So pretty smart on their part, honestly. But yeah, I'm going to watch it on YouTube along with probably a dozen of my closest friends. And
who in TNA currently has a WWE lineage to them? Is it
lots?
Nemeth?
They're all over the commercials. Nemeth, the Hardys, Rhino.
Hardys.
I think Rhino might have left, but he's in the commercials.
Yeah. They should do like a best of and just have all of the former WWE talent in all.
AJ Francis, Dana Brooke. So there's a few.
No, it's cool. I'm very interested to see as far as how the Netflix experience is for you. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it, honestly. And we get it in 4K too, which is nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 3 in our top 5 here, and after we do number 3, we'll bring on Jeremy Finestone. Worlds and Fallout. So if you watched Dynamite, there are a few people who have their eye on the prize. You have Adam Copeland, who wants Moxley, Jeff Jarrett, who says that he is not retiring. He's got one more year left, and he's going for the big belt. You have, I think, MJF said that he wanted his Triple B back. And then you had Jay White, who believes that he was screwed out of the title, and he actually won the number 1 slot in the gauntlet, the Casino Gauntlet. So at least we know that there are some folks who have their eyes on the prize, which is great because everything was about the Continental Classic, including, Will Ospreay saying that he had to finish this tournament before he could move on and get into business with, but Will Ospreay, not one of those guys who said he's ready for the title.
Kyle Fletcher.
Yeah. So Okada and Omega are on each other's mind. So that's the program there. So what did you think about kind of this new direction for Moxley and the world title?
I do like that they're showing people focus with it. I kind of don't want to see MJF in this gauntlet. To me, that feels bigger. And especially that promo he gave last night, I thought it was one of the best things on the show. And I mean, other than the fact, if you ignore the fact that he's supposed to be a heel, because that was a total 100% babyface promo, where he wants his belt. I mean, to me, that was okay, 6 months down the road, let's get to Moxley and MJF, but I don't want him winning a match and getting a TV title match in 2 weeks. Like, to me, that's, I don't know, maybe Hangman, Jay White, maybe, but I would hope that if Jay White was getting a title shot, they'd do it in New Zealand or in Australia, but maybe they're going to do it on TV. I don't know. Maybe you do like an inconclusive finish and they do rematch on TV, but obviously Copeland feels like, Cope feels like somebody that is gonna, if I had to put money on it, I would say he's getting a title shot at Revolution. So, you got a lot of different directions. Jeff Jarrett, I mean, I'm sorry, I love Jeff Jarrett. He's one of my favorite wrestlers.
It'll be a fun TV match.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he wins that gauntlet. Yeah,
he's gonna.
That's the guy. Like, really, like if you want to have a hotshot world title match in 2 weeks, he somehow gets a win in that gauntlet. Like,
you know what my main issue with the gauntlet is, but here's a secondary issue, which is Adam Copeland. I don't imagine he's going to need to win. Yeah, Cope Daddy.
Yeah.
I don't think Cope Daddy's going to have to win this gauntlet to get a shot.
No,
right?
Nope.
He's not even going to be in it, more than likely.
Nope.
So, and this is
and Christian's walking around with a contract as well.
So this is really my problem, because I've people who are fans of this booking telling me that it actually does make sense, and I'm like, okay, but I don't understand why we care so much about this gauntlet, why we care so much about getting the number 1 spot in this gauntlet, because people are going to get title matches not having to be in a gauntlet. So that's one thing. Copeland is going to get a shot. Jay White's going to get a shot. At some point, Will Ospreay will probably get a shot. Hangman will probably get a shot. But this specific gauntlet is created for a match in Cincinnati in 2 weeks against Moxley. So if, by your theory, if Jarrett does win that match, he's going to be beating guys in this gauntlet who are going to eventually get shots as well, including.
Well, I mean, he'll beat maybe like Commander or something. He's not actually going to beat he's not going to pin Jay White or something.
Hence my point, which is the gauntlet is completely based on luck rather than actually winning something, and that's my overall biggest problem with the gauntlet.
You know what? One of them should do maybe Hangman. Maybe they should fake an attack like Eddie Thorpe, and then they can just go to Tony Khan and say, "Hey, I wasn't in it. I need a shot."
And we've already had the Roddy Strong scenario that they've already established that you can do, which is complain because you didn't make it in. They cut it off before you went in. You could get a shot. But yeah, so here's my idea for Jeff Jarrett. I don't know if I would have Jeff Jarrett win the gauntlet, but I would have Mox basically say, I hear you're hunting me. Well, I'll make it easy for you. And then they create a TV match out of it. And the best part of this match, the biggest pop of this entire match, is when Jeff has Mox reeling and he gets the guitar and people think he crushes Mox with the guitar to win the belt, which is how he won every major match in his life. And somehow he does not do it. And then you get all the sentiment for him losing and not winning his big shot. I think that would be really good television, but then I hope he doesn't, get his neck put in a chair like they do to everybody else who they beat up.
I could see that exact scenario playing out, and then Samoa Joe shows up. And pulls him out of the ring and chokes him out. Like I just got vibes last night that thing was leading to a Samoa Joe feud. I think it was the mention of TNA, perhaps. But if that's what we get, and then maybe Joe works with Jarrett and then he sets his sight on Mox. I could see that.
All right. Thoughts on Swerve and Ricochet, and we'll bring on Jeremy.
I loved the angle. The only part of the angle I didn't love was, Ricochet bloodies him up. And the baby face, and Swerve is a really over baby face, and he's getting murdered by Ricochet. And the crowd is not really reacting the way you would expect them to react to like a super strong babyface getting punked out. And then who makes the save but the freaking Undisputed Kingdom? and Adam Cole and Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly. And I have never in my 40 plus years of watching pro wrestling seen baby faces make a save on a brutal attack and get less of a reaction than these three idiots got. And Swerve, you could tell in his face, he's looking at these guys like, I really want to drop these guys right now, but I'm a baby face, so I can't. Like, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but Swerve just by association got brought down about 9 levels of cool by having these guys make the save for him. And I don't know how you get out of this.
But isn't that, I wonder if that becomes the gimmick of the Undisputed Kingdom, which is they are technically baby faces, but they only can win when they outnumber the heels. Like, it's the only way.
I mean, that's a winning formula. And then you had MJF pointed out, it took 5 of you to beat me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh man, to me, like, they got to churn these guys, and like they got to do it like a month ago, but the problem is like, I don't think anybody cares about them either way. So even if they're heels, I don't think they're going to get any heat. Like, they're dead.
Taven and Bennett in the tag team scenario interests me. Everything else about those
maybe
guys,
just move them to Ring of Honor, like they could dominate Ring of Honor, and that'd be cool. Like, they got history there, and that's probably where they belong, honestly.
So when I saw Ricochet come out with those giant scissors, I thought, Trevor the Barber Man. he's gonna be cutting and strutting. Those scissors were gigantic.
Is he gonna cut Swerve's hair at some point?
So here's the thing, right? If you want to put everything through a logic dictation here, just read John LaRocca's timeline. Some of it I go, okay, you're critiquing this a little too hard, but he made the comparison to the Hangman Page thing, and he's like, Hangman just dumps this dude on his head, and then all kinds of security run out, including Christopher Daniels. And on the same show, this thing happens and nobody runs out, which is, I think, a valid comparison. Now, the AEW fans who want to defend the booking constantly will say, well, it's because Hangman and Daniels have this beef, and Daniels is keeping and not watching him for whatever reason. But at the same time, Swerve, must not have any friends either, because no baby faces ran out to save him.
And nobody ever saves the anybody from the Death Riders either.
And here's my biggest complaint about that kind of angle. That kind of angle should be the last thing on television. That was just in the middle of the show. So as an announcer, you have to go, and now we move on to something that is not as important as this. And the show, it's like, I wish they would do more of that stuff as kind of like the way to go off the air. Because then we still had to do this Adam Copeland match. What's the difference of putting the Copeland match in the middle and ending it with Swerve? So that was
well, I think he wanted them in the main event, but I agree. And what followed this, I got my notes here. I feel like it might have been that women's match, which if that was the case, like that. Oh no, that wasn't it. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, whatever's going to follow it, it's like, how do you follow that massive thing? Although, again, with the reaction, like, the fans didn't seem to care about it anyways. So the fact that Swerve got all bloodied up and you did this fantastic angle and the people in the crowd didn't even care, like, that says something.
The thing that I liked most about it is the Hurt Syndicate basically said, we don't like kiss asses, we like ass kickers.
Yep.
And so if Swerve is trying to join that crew,
Ricochet, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, Ricochet. He's got the resume now. He's like, look what I did.
Well, at that, and when the one thing you didn't mention, and I didn't mention, he came out in a great suit compared to what he usually is in. And I even said on my show last night, like, I'm pretty sure MVP bought him that suit. Like, and what I would have said, instead of, he ended the attack by doing his big cackle. And if it was me scripting this, I would have had him look in the camera and say, did I hurt him enough for you, Montel?
Mm-hmm.
And then just walk away. Leave him bloodied in the ring. And he just showed, hey, I just hurt people. This is my initiation into the group. So
yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. All right, let's bring on Jeremy here, and we'll do some New Year's wishes, and then we'll
Awesome.
end the show talking about Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty. What is up, Jeremy?
Hello. How you doing, Garrett? How you doing, Font?
Good.
Font.
Nice to see you. Fine.
Thank you. What is it? That's the Fontaine Hawk? That's what you're saying on the Dynamite
Yeah.
show?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Font
Yeah,
Hawk
I
in
figured
the
that out.
mornings.
Yeah.
There it is.
You got to give
doing
out
great.
got to give out the weather on every show and the time, weather and time. So let's talk about some New Year's wishes. And one of the things that I was thinking about when I was thinking of like what could we wish for companies or for wrestlers or whatever is like wrestling. Like if you are a hardcore wrestling fan, it is absolutely a great time to be that, because there's just so much, but at the same time, you almost feel inundated and overwhelmed and anxious that you're not getting to everything. And that's not a great place to be in, because I almost feel like, I do the show with Big Dave, so I know what we're going to talk about, and I know what I can skip, and I know what I should watch. But at the same time, I'm like, should I just be watching more, or do I have to cut back? Like, I think the one thing as a wrestling fan, I kind of wish there was less product, but that's based on my lifestyle. And I still, I don't only just watch wrestling. I'm watching, lots of sports and different things. And I have a family as well. So that sounds kind of selfish to me, but where are you guys with your content consumption? And Jeremy, you can go first.
I'm looking for a little bit more balance, in all honesty. The New Japan shows are all at night. So I pretty much made my peace that if I need to watch those, I'll watch them in the morning and have the match by match, whatever. I'm looking for just an idea that I'm not inundated with content, but also like the content that I like is working for me. Each promotion, I think, has something that I'm hoping for. WWE, I hope, doesn't get complacent this next year because they're so hot that they can just kind of coast it outside of the main event angles if they really wanted to. Like the product is just doing tremendous. AEW, I'd hope for a little bit more consistency and a unified vision of what the product is supposed to be, rather than reacting to week ratings and what the audience is reacting to maybe that week, and rather, committing to a long-term vision. And then I think the other promotions is just working on small things here or there that make their product better.
Paul, what is your wish for WWE in 2025?
I won't say this would be good for WWE, but specifically for CM Punk. And I think if Punk is happy, then the company will be happy. And I just want to see him get through a year without any sort of major drama, because I think this is the year that's set up for him, drama or injuries. Yeah, and I think this year, so I want to have a healthy and happy CM Punk, and I really do think that with that, there's a lot of money programs. We've already seen Seth, and I think we talked about possibilities of Roman. Eventually Cody, I think, is a money match for him. So I want a happy and healthy CM Punk for WWE.
I would like to see this Netflix deal in not only in the US, but like Paul's getting all of it. But the US is such the targeted market for the eyeballs on the streaming. I want to see it be a gigantic success for them, because I think if they can show Netflix the consistent eyeballs that they can deliver, I think that helps their relationship. It helps TKO's relationship. And I'll add my UFC one here, because I want to ask Paul about his UFC wish as well. But my UFC wish is very closely related to this, in that I hope UFC ends up on Netflix when they sign their TV deal, because they're going to have some data. Netflix isn't going to give them a lot of data, but they'll have some data to see where the eyeballs are all over. And the UFC obviously has lots of penetration in different geographical markets. and they want to grow their sport in that, continue growing their sport too. So I think if this Netflix thing works out great for WWE and they're able to hit a lot of people that maybe it was a little bit harder, and you kind of grow with Netflix, because that's also the key. If you're on cable television today, you're not growing, you're just kind of dying slowly. And that's just for everybody. That's just how it's going to work. Netflix is one of the few services out there where you're still growing. And so Netflix and WWE together, I want to see that continue to be, or I want to see that kick off well and be successful for 2025. All right, what about for AEW?
So for AEW, I want Continental Classic for the women.
Oh, there you go.
That's my wish for the year. And I know we've talked about this. I do think they have a deep enough roster. In fact, the list I gave you in our Discord, there was some pretty big names I didn't even have on there. So I think the depth is there. The thing is, and Dave even talked about this on Observer Radio, Tony just has to resign himself to the fact that they're not all going to be 4-star matches, but it's very important to that division that the fans look at it on the same level as they look at the men's divisions, as they do in WWE, as they do in TNA, as Stardom does, in relation to New Japan. And when they put them together, they're not looked at as less than. They're promoted as the best women in the world. And that's what they need to do in AEW. And when you only have one match a show, that sends a message. And so having a Continental Classic for the women, I think, would go a long way. Mercedes is pulling that division up by her bootstraps. And this is the next step, in my opinion.
I think they're going to have to get more parity, though, in the amount of women that they show on their television show. That's the next step for them, because we don't see enough of them, but it's not because of anything other than that they believe there's more guys who are better for their show. But it's not, if NXT is kind of like the peak of that. You're never going to get there, but I think you do need to present the women more as stars than they currently do today. Yeah. And that if you can do that, then I would say that they could probably do a Continental Classic. But as it is today, I don't think they present women nearly enough as stars in order to compel people to watch a tournament. So that's what I want.
Not enough of them for sure. Not enough of them for sure. Yeah.
All right. So the one for me for AEW, and kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but they just need a babyface, man. They need a hero. Yeah. That's like the one thing. And if you build around one babyface, you create a hero for the fan base. The perfect one, and they did it, but then the man retired, was Sting. Like, that was amazing what they did with Sting last year, but it was for a retirement match and not for a world title run. Like, the Sting has a lot of equity with the fans. So, not every wrestler on that roster is even close, but whomever they choose, whether it is Kenny Omega, whether it is Will Ospreay, I think some folks kind of disagree if Swerve's character is right for that. I don't think as is that it's the right character to be that person, but whomever it is, let's just go for the jugular with this wrestler.
Darby,
do everything. See, I think they've already missed the boat with him.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, because
I think you're right, but I actually think that that's their plan. I think they wrote him out to bring him back at a big point, and I don't think it's going to work.
Whoever the guy is whoever the babyface will be, needs to have an over 90% win rate for the rest of the year. Like, they lose 2 matches for the rest of the year. Like, they can't lose. That's the guy. Like, they can't have this parody booking or these stories where losing is part of whatever their angle is. Like, no, this guy can't lose. He has to be the guy that everyone believes, like, when he loses, like, your jaw drops.
Eddie Kingston, maybe?
But then you have to worry about injuries and whether guys can sustain. And that's the other part. Some of that is luck, injury luck.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's move to New Japan. Jeremy, do you have a specific wish for New Japan Pro Wrestling for 2025?
Honestly, it's that Takeshita wins the IWGP Championship.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot that they can do this next year. There's even a possibility that Shota Umino wins on January 4th, and then everybody's expectations of what this year is going to be goes completely out the window. A hot angle, something exciting. I do think Takeshita is meant to be in New Japan the more that I see his participation in the promotion and his reception in Japan. For as much as he is getting the appreciation in AEW, it's much bigger in Japan when he is in there, and the connection is unreal. So my hope, my dream is that Takeshita is a huge part of New Japan plans for 2025.
What about you, Paul?
In kind of the same vein as what Jeremy was talking about, not necessarily a specific person, but I'm hoping that New Japan gets behind a homegrown person. And by homegrown, I mean a Japanese superstar. So it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that came up through New Japan. Mm-hmm. Whether that's Takeshita, Umino, Yota Tsuji, Kosei Fujita, Ryohei Oiwa, one of these names that has come up, and they've been around a while now. All those names have been there at least 5 years, other than Takeshita. And one of them just gets the rocket strapped to them and gets over. That's my wish, because I think that foreigners aren't going to do it, as we've seen. And going back, to the well and bringing back, Omega, Osprey, Okada will be nice, and it'll be nice nostalgia, but it's not something you can build your company around. So you need one of these guys to just catch fire, and they just have to bite the bullet and do it. Like Geto did with Okada, 10 years ago. And they need to do that with one of these guys. And then the question is, are they ready? And that's where what you talked about, Garrett, with AEW. It's some of it's going to be luck, but it's also preparation and opportunity creates luck, or whatever, however that expression is.
Yeah, whatever that expression is. Okay. For NXT, I had one for NXT, and I know that this is the campy show, and if people get a kick out of the campiness and the goofiness and these terrible storylines of guys never having been in a relationship with a woman before. You can still do all of that stuff. Like, they can still have that. I would like to see just a tinge, maybe 10% of more seriousness, because I think they have an opportunity to have an amazing women's division. It's already great. But if you like, this this Continental Classic for women idea that you have for AEW, if there was a little bit of seriousness in NXT, we could have that right now in NXT, and it would be awesome. But they don't see the product as a serious sports product. They see it as, a goofy CW network product. So they don't have to change it. The people like it for what it is. It seems to be doing okay on CW. Dial up the seriousness a little bit for me, so that I can see the women's division in particular show out, because we're talking they could do an NXT Evolution Revolution show as a PLE that I would want to see way more than any current PLE that they could do today. Like, that's how invested I am in their women's division.
Nice. For me, it's that they're able to replenish, because with SmackDown and Raw moving to 3 hours, a lot of these people are going to get called up, and then they're going to have people basically called up. So it's almost like your AAA team is going to be calling up people from single A. And I'm hoping that some of these people are actually ready and are able to get over, because if that doesn't happen, we're going to end up with NXT 3.0. And nobody wants to see that. And I mean, and this could end up with like this, this show, like literally dying, because like I think fans will tune out in droves if they go from what they're doing now to another version of 2.0, but worse. And and so I hope there's a Braun Breaker in there. I hope there's a Tiffany Stratton in there. I watch Level Up. There's a few people I've seen that I feel really good about, but nobody that's at that level coming out of the gate. So maybe it's going to be some of these WWEID people like Jack Cartwheel, Evander Holyfield's kid, and there's some other ones that have a little bit of talent and buzz. But they're going to need that because we're talking like literally in the next 2 months, I think there's going to be a mass exodus from NXT. Well, probably maybe by WrestleMania, like Stand and Deliver, that'll probably be the end for a lot of them.
Just like the NXT draft that we did last week.
Yeah,
we're ready for it. We're ready. I understand what you're saying. I hope they're very delicate in how they bring these people up, because even someone like Carmelo Hayes, right, who he's fantastic, he's a great wrestler. He's gotten a lot of start and stop already.
Yeah.
In his young,
The nice thing I'll say with him is they've put him up against like all the big names. So that to me tells me that they're invested in him, and the big guys want to work with him. So that's good on him. And at some point they'll pull the trigger, I hope.
All right, let's do one more UFC one for Paul, and then we'll move on to our Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty previews.
Mine's easy. Get out of the Apex. I'm so tired of those shows. Like, and there's a lot of them coming. I think they got 5 in the first 2 months at the Apex. Like, it's such a difference when they move from that to the big arenas, and they sell out all the arenas. So I don't know why they keep doing it, but I guess it works for them. But for people watching, like, it sucks. And I may stop watching those Apex shows just out of protest because there's too much to watch as it is.
All right, Jeremy, let's talk about Wrestle Kingdom now. I posed this in a text earlier today. I very, very much understand why New Japan fans are excited for the great wrestling that's going to happen this weekend. But as someone who is not following the shows as much as they used to, which would be me, I know Paul's watching most of them. Like, what is the marquee? What is the reason to tune in? Who is the big star that is going to draw eyeballs? I will still watch most of the show because I think there's still going to be some special stuff on it. But like, if you were to ask me, like, what is the reason to watch this show? I'm going to say it's because it's Wrestle Kingdom more than anything else. Like, what's the selling point, do you think, for this show?
I think there are a couple of selling points on this one, maybe 3. One, you've got Hiromu versus Naito, which is a once-in-a-lifetime match. They teased it happening during the pandemic, but they didn't end up doing it. And once this match happens, they're never doing it again. And for the homegrown Japan audience, that's a big deal to them.
Okay, but you're telling me this. You're telling me this, though. Well, I watched my fair share of Naito in 2024.
I understand. I think Hiromu is going to be working his ass off.
Yeah, okay. and that I guess that is a selling point, because that dude is going to make sure that match is not good. Yeah.
They're both motivated to have a very good match. I would not be surprised. I'm not saying this is a fact or anything. This could be Naito's last Wrestle Kingdom match. It's not out of the realm of possibility. He's had 3 eye surgeries in one, and he can never have the eye surgery again in that one. And now he's popped over to the other eye to correct that one, to align it with the other eye. And so there's a limited bump card on this dude's on the dude for the future. This could be a very quiet retirement tour this year, and there could be things in play. The Naito business is very interesting, and I think he's motivated to have a very good showing on this match. And then you got, Shota Umino versus Zack Sabre Jr., and you got Yota Tsuji versus David Finlay, and this is a big test for the both of them. They're going to be on the third to top in the main event of the card. I don't think the impetus is really going to be on Finlay and Zack Sabre Jr. to be responsible for having a good match. The confidence is there. It's what the homegrown Reiwa, Yota and Shota, what they're able to do in that position. And is it time to put the belt on Shota Umino? Is it too early? Is it, do it now and see what happens? Or do you keep it on Zack Sabre Jr.? You could go both directions on this. I think the idea is that Shota's not ready for it. and maybe he's not. But if you don't find out, there's also that aspect of it. They've clearly gotten behind him. They've clearly felt like this guy is the guy all the way before the G1 when they booked him to win against Zack Sabre Jr. and put this all into play, that this was the plan. So regardless of whatever kind of year Shota Umino has had with injuries and backstage or whatever, they picked him, and they're going to see what they can do with him come the main event. And then you got the AEW matchup between Shingo Takagi and Konosuke Takeshita. And for whatever you may think about the AEW New Japan relationship, that one can be pretty curious because that belt has gone to other promotions before. Carl Anderson took it with him to WWE, and they booked that out with, I think, Tama Tonga a few years ago. And then Tama Tonga left, but he didn't have the belt at the time. That belt can go other places. So I kind of see it as pretty possible that Takeshita wins that one. Other than that, if you are a diehard, there's a lot of great matches on that card. But if you're coming in fresh, those are probably the matches you're kind of circling and saying, hey, those are the ones I should check out.
So, Paul, you watch this stuff. You don't cover it as closely as Jeremy does, but like, is your interest based on the fact that you're watching it, or is there something special about this Wrestle Kingdom that you're looking forward to?
In terms of something special, no. Like I said, I was glad you asked Jeremy that question because I was looking at this card and I got it up here, and yeah, the Shingo Takeshita match is probably an early match of the year contender for sure. But like some of these other ones, like Tanahashi and Evil, that's gonna be bad. The 4-way TV title match, I don't like Narita, so I'm not sure about that one. I'm personally looking forward to the IWGP Women's title match. I hope they get some time, and that 4-way junior tag team title match could be a show stealer between the Jet Setters, Kevin Knight and Kushida.
It's the Tokyo Terror ladder match.
Yeah.
Bullet
Club, Catch 22 or 22 should say. And then I've gotten intrigued over the last week or so about as we're hearing talk that Shooter could win, because I was just assuming Zach's gonna win, and then what happens if Shooter does win? Does that mean he defends against Claudio at Wrestle Dynasty? Yeah, so exactly. I wouldn't be surprised to see Claudio win, if that happened, because they've really protected Claudio well.
He did lose to Commander.
Yeah, but that was a fluke. But I'm more likely, I would think that's going to maybe set up Shooter and John Moxley down the road. Whether or not that's title versus title, I don't know. But that's a big match, that they've built for literally years. So, you got to heat up Shooter to get him to that level. So that would do it.
Hip me to this one. What's the reason for the lumberjack stipulation in Tanahashi versus Evil? Is it to even the sides so that the House of Torture doesn't have all of the odds in their favor? What's the stip behind that one?
Honestly, I think it's probably to get Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto and a couple of those guys on the main card,
like Tenzan, Shono, guys like that.
Just all the old friends of Tanahashi coming to making sure that they have him and his support for New Japan, that Evil will not win this day kind of thing. Just the whole they've done everything in their power, threatening that Tanahashi will retire, cutting his hair, all of these things, and it's cute. I just don't believe for 1 second that they would announce a retirement match for Tanahashi with 4 weeks to go, knowing if that was the plan. It's just, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, personally.
Yeah.
So previously, I think I'm trying to remember when's the last time that I didn't watch Wrestle Kingdom live. It's got to be going back a few years. So I would watch live with all the sickos and then kind of take a half a day off and wake up a little later and then go to work. But this one's on the weekend, so you don't have to do that if you don't want to. But being that there are 2 shows, I think it's gonna, that makes it a little hard to watch both live. But Wrestle Kingdom if you're watching the next morning, basically you have to watch Wrestle Kingdom, which is going to be probably 3-4 hours, probably, and then 5 hours. And so
I mean, it might very well be 5 hours, guys.
You watch that in the morning, then maybe you go touch grass or take a walk or
do a podcast afterward covering the New Japan show.
Cover the show.
Touch snow, depending on where you are.
Whatever it is. And then if you're an AEW fan, then you got Collision 5 hours later, depending on how long it takes you to watch Wrestle Kingdom. And then after Collision is over, immediately pre-show for AEW and JPW Wrestle Dynasty. So that is an insanely long day. And I like, Dave is sending me texts while we're doing the show, and he's telling me when all this stuff is happening. And I'm like, long day for you, because I'm not going to be watching all of that stuff, in that same time, but I'll be watching enough of it. But just the idea, like, that is an intimidating schedule to then watch Wrestle Dynasty live, because that's the one that I'll watch live. So that is on from 7 to midnight probably, and then then that's your Saturday night there. It's kind of like a UFC show in a sense.
Yeah. Do they have are they doing the big show on the day after too? Like the Raw after
the Dash,
the New Year Dash? Oh yeah.
So Dash will be the next day after.
Sunday night, Monday morning will be kind of when we can. Yeah.
Insane.
I too have received that communication from Dave about the coordination for Saturday, and I've already spoken to my wife about I will probably not be around all that day.
I actually am going to try to watch some of it live, I think, and it'll be fun to like put, because it's early enough that I can. So, I think it's like it starts at 10 my time, I think. So, right after Collision. Dynasty, not Kingdom. I'll watch Kingdom.
I was like, you might wake up early and be
So for us, Dynasty's on at 7-8, so we'll be able to watch that live. But it's the Wrestle Kingdom the night before that I had to make a business
staying
decision.
up overnight to watch.
It doesn't have anything to do with being old. It has everything to do with, like, I don't sit in front of my TV and watch wrestling all day long every day. Like, you have to do other stuff. You just get back from holiday and you work, and then I don't want wrestling to also feel like work. Like, I want it to be fun. So that is the thing. Anyways,
to me, I'm way more looking forward to Wrestle Dynasty personally.
Me too. And so let's quickly talk about some of the stuff on that card. We have, I guess, the pre-show match. The International Women's Cup is on the pre-show. So
that and the ROH tag match are both pre-show matches.
Those are pre-show matches. So Willow, Persephone, Athena, and Momo Watanabe for this women's four-way cup. And the winner receives a women's championship match from the participating promotion of their choosing. So you're telling me that if Willow wins this match, she can theoretically go to Stardom and say she wants a title shot.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. I like that. Stip. And then Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara as the Sons of Texas against House of Torture for the ROH Tag Team Championship. So those are your dark matches, or your 0 hour or whatever. Hey, by the way, who are the announcing? What's the announcing team for Dynasty? Do we know?
I have a guess that, based off of something somebody suggested to me, that it may be Walker and Rocky Romero, but I can't say for sure.
That's a good team. I like that team.
So none of the AEW announcers are going to Japan.
To my knowledge, no. There's a Collision show, so the Collision team is
keep Shivani home.
Is there, and then Calbert's really not feeling great. Like, if you listen to him, he shouldn't be traveling to Japan right now. So Rocky seems like it might be the guy.
It would be cool if they got Nigel on there.
Yeah, I think Nigel would probably be okay.
But he's a Collision guy, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah. So it that's what I heard. But I can't say for sure.
Please no Matt Menard.
I think Matt Menard might have lost his gig when Rampage went away.
I hope so.
Okay, so let's go through some of these matches. I think the big one for me and for many, Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd. Now, Paul and I were kind of talking about this in the Discord, and I know Jeremy's just been on this hill screaming his lungs out, but the lack of advertisement or promotion for this show on AEW television, AEW's big star coming back. Now, I'm assuming the reason why we're not seeing promotion is because they want Omega's showing up on next Wednesday to kind of be the big deal. If they tell fans that, oh yeah, you can go see him wrestle, then maybe they're worried that people don't show up on Wednesday. I think you can kind of use both to kind of bleed in and make his Wednesday thing even more impressive, or make people want to see it even more. But they've decided to not even really tell you. And they've decided to not tell you a whole lot about Wednesday either, if we're being honest. There was a video package. Okada had mentioned Omega. I think they mentioned it one other time, but they're not hitting you over the head about anything Kenny Omega right now. So yeah, I'm I wish that they would have done more. I guess I kind of understand from a business perspective. They have to promote Collision. They have to promote Dynamite. They have to promote AEW on Max, and Wrestle Dynasty probably comes like 4th or 5th in their current priority. They got to sell tickets to All In. They even had the little thing for Revolution in March at the show. So I don't know. I think it's unfortunate that they weren't able to really put any promotion behind Wrestle Dynasty from the AEW side.
I think the unified vision thing is just the part that gets me the most. There's very real opportunity here to coordinate and be on the same page with a couple of these angles that make pro wrestling better. If like you had an angle between New Japan and AEW, there was potentially like a war where it wasn't like the two presidents are shaking hands and then all of a sudden we have a forbidden door. But if you are legitimately building a war between these two promotions, and when they get together once or twice a year, then you have some meat to build. I think you have an opportunity to do something a little bit bigger. But right now, they're expos. They're trifle events in which like you are catering to specific fan bases or the people that are like, oh yeah, this would be really cool if you had this matchup or whatever. But at the end of the day, a number of these matches will feel really inconsequential when the show is over. Like you'll wake up on Monday morning and maybe talk about how great of a match was, but the fallout, the consequences, what actually happened that transfers over to what we're watching day to day on AEW or what we're watching day to day on New Japan, that's where I want to feel like this event mattered. Not in like a really great match that'll get a lot of star ratings, but doesn't mean anything. And so that to me is where I feel like the whole cooperation between the two promotions is weak, because the investment to really give something the fans want to see, like the sickos, like the actual sickos that are watching all of this stuff and see the details and see like the threading between little things that is like, no, it didn't go according to plan, but you can see where they were going with it to make it go according to plan. And you respect that process. I don't see any of that. And I wish I did. That's it. I just wish I did.
I think the best you can hope for as far as that goes, and this is, possible and maybe even likely, is that at least you're going to get a thread to the show in San Jose, in a couple weeks. And so the results of Wrestle Dynasty should play into that. I can already see, a bunch of matches that they'll set up for that. And those will be real big matches and you guys will be there. So, and that'll be a big, on Wrestle New Japan World as well. So, but in terms of AEW, like, I think that when this show is over, like it'll be like it didn't even happen. Yeah. Like not like other than if Mercedes wins, she'll brag about it and then maybe even show highlights. But other than that, like Jack Perry's on the show. They have
never title may end up back in AEW. But other than that, like,
are
we going to get never title matches?
Probably. But
what a difference does it make to any other title match, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And people are just going to be able to watch this on New Japan World, right? Like,
yeah, there's you pay the monthly fee and you get both shows just included, all the shows. I even think Battle Battle in the Valley is not a pay-per-view if you pay the monthly.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I think all of it is. The business model has just shifted.
So you'll get like 4 big shows if you pay today.
Yes,
at
for the
least.
rest
And
of the
then
month.
I think isn't even Fantastic Mania starts in the next
Fantastic Mania might be February.
Oh, okay.
See, New Japan should give us all affiliate links so we could help them sell their service, because
Well,
I had
Jeremy's done a better job promoting this.
Well,
than
I had no
Ron.
idea that all of these shows were just going to be up on the service like that.
You pay $10 or you pay $50 on Triller. What are you doing? Just get the New Japan app.
Yeah.
The Young Bucks may end up with the IWGP tag titles and go back to New Japan, AEW with it. But if you do that, you've completely kneecapped the private party run, because you've got a bigger tag team with different title belts that you may or may not be focusing on your.
And you're kind of also positioning those belts as better than your own, because if the Bucks have them. So if they do win the titles, I bet you they go to San Jose and defend them, but I doubt if they would show up in AEW with those belts.
Yeah, the threat of like Shota Umino and Claudio, for example, like that a match between Moxley and Shota is going to happen, but Shota has got to beat Moxley at some point this year. Mm-hmm. More than likely, Moxley is not going to have the title when that happens, because they're going to want to prioritize somebody in AEW being the first guy to conquer all that. So Shota and Moxley at Forbidden Door may end up being the play, because it's right after the G1. It's in the O2 Arena. You can finally close the books on that. It could be Dominion. Dominion was what we wanted it to be last year.
Okay, but I'm going to just butt in here. We just talked about how AEW is not showcasing any of this stuff. Right. Forbidden Door is their show.
Right. But you have to think about...
They're going to have a New Japan guy beat the AEW guy?
Shota's got to beat him at some point. I mean, that's just...
I don't think it's going to be at that show, though.
It will probably be it'll be on a big New Japan show, whatever it is. Like Dominion,
Dominion would be the one.
Yeah, right. That would be, because Naito didn't even beat Mox until they went to Chicago.
Right. So I'm thinking Dominion. You could do Forbidden Door because of the AEW New Japan crossover. But I'm thinking if Moxley drops the title in March or May, that frees up a match with him with Shota in June, in which you can kick off.
Yeah,
the ascension of Shota by slaying all the past like demons in his life, kind of thing.
Do we know who Great O'Con's partner is against the Bucks?
I'm guessing Jeff Cobb.
He's already right, yeah, because he's wrestling the night before. Yeah,
there are a number of CMLL guys that are booked in Mexico, including Templario, who is the newest member of United Empire. It could be TJP, it could be Akira. They're all in matches the night before, but to me, it just kind of feels like Jeff Cobb would be the guy,
not Jacob Austin Young.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's whoever the Young Bucks want in that match. But
yeah, as long as it's not TJP, I'm fine. So
yeah, I would imagine they're probably going to be pretty beaten up from the night before in a tables, ladders, and chairs match. So they could be in the Lucha pre-show match.
Yeah, there's a 8-man gauntlet, 4 New Japan wrestlers against 4 CMLL wrestlers.
Right. So Volador, Templario Jr., Mexico, they're all in Mexico. I saw Soberano and Hechicero are not on the CMLL cards for that weekend. But other than that, I really don't know who those guys could be.
And then just to wrap this up, we got Zack Sabre Jr. and Ricochet, which is going to be for the title if Zack Sabre Jr. wins at Wrestle Kingdom. We also have Shota Umino against Claudio, which will be for the title if Shota beats Zack. So kind of interesting ways to get to those matches. Do you have any thoughts on this current version of Ricochet facing Zack Sabre Jr.?
I don't have Ricochet. I have whiplash watching Ricochet, and all is like back and forth between being a geek and being dangerous. And frankly, neither promotion really pushing this match whatsoever. It's just barely mentioned. Zack Sabre Jr. has kept his eyes on Shota Umino. Ricochet's been focused on Swerve Strickland. And it feels just like an exhibition match. You're just going out there and the two are having it. Whether the title is on the line or not doesn't feel like it matters, and it feels kind of like an afterthought. Shota versus Zach feels like a much more realistic chance of a title change in there. And based off of all the booking, and I know that it will never happen, but I would love to see Swerve screw over Ricochet.
That's what I was going to ask you. And then in the Finley and Yoda matches, like is whichever one wins the night before, are they defending?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Finley is defending against Brody King if he wins.
Right.
And then Yoda is defending against Jack Perry if he wins.
So that kind of tells me we might see Yoda win.
I feel like Yoda beating Jack Perry is always going to be a given, whether he wins the first night or the second night, just because Jack Perry got the pin over him in the tag match. And it's just all of it is just kind of like, let's give Yoda Tsuji a guy to make him look good. And Yoda Tsuji is trying to build a match with Okada, and he's kind of going into business for himself on that one, on his video packages, building up his match with David Finlay and Yoda and Jack Perry. So I think the end game there is getting Yoda Tsuji a match with Okada. And if he loses to Jack Perry, it kind of kneecaps that whole build. I'm leaning towards David Finlay winning both nights and Yoda Tsuji losing the first night and winning to get his heat back on the second night. But you could have either one of those guys win, Finlay or Yoda, as long as they both win on the next night.
Right. Okay.
And also Mercedes and Mina, which we mentioned before, they're having a match. All right, Jeremy, you are going to be on. Actually, for those watching live, you're going to be on in less than an hour. Speaking of Strong Style on Fight Game Media YouTube channel, just go to fightgamemedia.com and you can find Jeremy and Steven if need be. And then you also have 2 shows this weekend. So you're going after Wrestle Kingdom the day after, and then you're going after Wrestle Dynasty as well the day after.
I've committed to a number of shows because it is the biggest time of New Japan this year. My podcast partner, Stephen Conway, is actually in Japan, and he's getting set up to record with me live. Nice. And we'll do the live stream in about 45 minutes. And the Chris Samsa, who does the Sport of Pro Wrestling G1 tallies and is a general friend to New Japan, is going to be joining us for our final preview. A little bit more in-depth than this one, but we're going to be covering a lot of the same topics. So if you are looking for more of that, like Garrett said, Fight Game Media.
All right, Paul, thank you for jumping on and doing this. And you and Jeff Hawkins last night did the Dynamite show. So people can find that as well on Fight Game Media. And yeah, so hopefully we'll get a healthy John LaRocca back next week so that we can talk about all of these things. But I'll see Jeremy on Saturday, and I'll at least be there for Wrestle Dynasty. I don't think I'm doing the breakfast at Dave's, lunch at Dave's, dinner at Dave's. I don't think. It
might just be me and Dave hanging in the morning.
See, Paul, this is what happens. You need to move closer to us so you could be in all this madness.
I can't even imagine the conversation with my wife, honestly.
It is constantly an adventure.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to everybody as well. For Paul and Jeremy, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.